Hang in
Dude,
there. It is.
that Smylie Kaufman for 61. Wow.
I'm Smylie Kaufman, and this is The Smylie Show.
We're here with another episode of The Smylie Show, and this is an emergency pod because we're reacting to the breaking news of the day here from Louisville, Kentucky, that Scotty Sheffler was arrested, detained, subsequently released, and now on the golf course here at the PGA Championship. Really a wild turn of events, and I think the first thing we need to say before anything else is there is a somber undertone to this because the reason everything happened the way it did is that there was a worker from one of the vendors at the tournament who lost his life today. It was an incident with a bus, a traffic accident, and obviously our deepest sympathies and condolences to his family. Scotty Sheffler noted the same in the statement he put out in the wake of this. But Smylie, just to wake up to this news. I mean, I know I had close to 200 text messages. I'm sure you had the same, maybe even more. I mean, what is it like waking up on a Friday at a major championship and this is the first thing you read?
I know, I was about to go knock on your door. I had woken up earlier than you, and all of my group texts were coming through. I was on a text with Adam Schefter as well, and he was chiming in as well, getting the NFL's best inside scoop reporter. He's all in on the golf, so... just from a timeline standpoint, you know, when I was kind of seeing the videos of Jeff Darlington, I believe is the name of the media reporter that was on site. And if you haven't seen that, it kind of just tells a story of exactly what the situation was. A rainy, not very light out this morning. Visibility wasn't great, but the PGA Tour players, all the players playing this week, were sent out a text about the incident that Charlie has already referred to this morning that happened at 5 a.m. Come 6 a.m., that's when Scotty Scheffler and the incident supposedly happened. First tee time was at 7:15 a.m. this morning, so you have to assume that players were already on site and making it through the gate. So with that being said, you know, the text that was sent was told for the players to drive eastbound, and that's the only way to get into the course via gate 1. And Scotty was going eastbound. He wasn't the first tee time, so he wasn't the first player to do this. Allegedly drove in the westbound traffic, trying to get around what he felt like was a situation where he was able to avoid the traffic, just kind of pop right into where that front gate is, drive in. And for a player has driven in, not in this type of situation, but in a area that's really congested with traffic, where we just know as a player with our marked car with the PGA Championship logo, or for instance, another courtesy car logo at another event, I've done it before. I've driven past security and to be able to get to where we can get on the golf course and get our day started. So it's not unusual, but there's some pretty difficult circumstances that I imagine had the detectives, the cops all on high alert to make sure that they did their job which was a crime scene or whatever the scene is,
right,
for them to be able to determine exactly what happened. And for Scotty, obviously a seriously misunderstood situation that I'm sure that he's probably, it happened so fast he didn't even have time to be able to process even what happened.
Yeah, so let me just, because you touched on a few things here, and I think it's very important to establish a clear timeline using the facts that we have, so especially people who aren't caught up on this can understand. So here's a series of events as we understand them that occurred this morning. So at 5:09 a.m., there is that fatal accident that occurs outside of Valhalla. At 5:39 a.m., this text you forwarded to me is sent to all the players participating in the PGA Championship. Due to a serious accident, the only access to Gate 1 for players and caddies is from the west going eastbound on Shelbyville Road. Please plan to use this route to arrive at Valhalla Golf Club and allow extra time due to congested traffic. So that's 5:39 a.m. At 6:01, Scotty Sheffler, as you noted, is pulling in when this incident occurs. And I'll now read to you the police report as it's written. Detective Gillis was directing traffic into Gate 1 at the Valhalla Golf Course due to the road being closed in both directions from an earlier fatal collision. Listed subject was driving eastbound to gain access to the course. Subject pulled into the westbound lanes where outbound traffic was flowing and to avoid backed up traffic. Detective Gillis was in the middle of the westbound lanes in full LMPD uniform and a high visibility yellow reflective rain jacket. Detective Gillis stopped subject and attempted to give instructions. Subject refused to comply and accelerated forward, dragging Detective Gillis to the ground. Detective Gillis suffered pain, swelling, and abrasions to his left wrist and knee. He was transported to the hospital for further medical treatment by emergency medical personnel. Detective Gillis' uniform pants, valued at approximately $80, were damaged beyond repair. That's the police report. At 7:28 a.m., Scotty is booked. At 8:40, and the charges he's booked on are second-degree assault of a police officer, third-degree criminal mischief, reckless driving, and disregarding signals from officers directing traffic. Those are the charges. He takes a mugshot that's made his round on the internet. At 8:40 a.m., Scotty Sheffler is released and accompanied by Valhalla Club president Jimmy Kirchdorfer, or Valhalla owner, I should say, Jimmy Kirchdorfer, back to Valhalla Golf Club. There are statements released by a defense attorney here in Louisville he's retained, Steve Romines, as to the nature of the case. At 9:12, Scotty arrives at Valhalla and he issues the following statement. This morning, I was proceeding as directed by police officers. It was a very chaotic situation, understandably so considering the tragic accident that had occurred earlier, and there was a big misunderstanding of what I thought I was being asked to do. I never intended to disregard any of the instructions. I'm hopeful to put this to the side and focus on golf today. Of course, all of us involved in the tournament express our deepest sympathies to the family of the man who passed away in the earlier accident this morning. It truly puts everything in perspective. And shortly after that 9:12 arrival, he's on the range warming up for his 10:08 tee time. So that is the timeline as we know it in full. And I just wonder if you have any reflections on the way things went and maybe the way things could have gone differently so we did not arrive where we are right now.
Well, I think a couple things, condolences to the gentleman that passed away this morning. And past that, I think you start to look at, this has been a long time in the works for Valhalla Golf Club to get this PGA Championship, doing a ton of work on the clubhouse, the golf course. This tournament just didn't arrive here overnight. It's been years and years of preparation for 4 days. And I imagine from the ownership at Valhalla to the membership, all the members that haven't been able to play this golf course, looking forward to a magical week. I start there, and then I look at the city of Louisville and its fans here that were excited about supporting an incredible event, which may still turn out to be an incredible event. But right now, as we sit here, you imagine that there's just going to be some frustration from a lot of locals on how it was handled. With where things stand right now, we don't know how Scotty necessarily handled the situation with the car. It made it sound like he's rolled the window down. The policeman grabbed his arm and he kept driving. I'm sure there's going to be video of this to come out at some point to be able to either support the police report or completely contradict it. It's not for us to say. I think that Scotty felt like he was doing what maybe other players were already doing. The yellow security jacket and the yellow police jacket can be confusing, as a lot of times that security guards who are not policemen, who do not have the authority to put you in handcuffs, are the people that are waving us in and out of traffic when we're getting into a golf course. So it's not an unusual circumstance. I think Scotty maybe wasn't quite aware of the situation, and maybe would have proceeded in a different way. But nothing will ever replace the image of waking up for me this morning and seeing a mugshot of Scotty Sheffler, who is a guy in which we would we think the world of this guy. He's a role model not only for just kids around the world, but just for even adults. He's a very
100%.
upstanding citizen. So when you see the police report and a felony charge and the seriousness of what is being potentially charged, whether this will be held up, whether it will be dropped, we don't know. But it's been a crazy day.
I think all that is incredibly well said, because I feel so badly for the city of Louisville, for Valhalla Golf Club, for the PGA of America, that this happened the way it did. And the questions I have are around, just preparation and how this was handled. To your point, we've seen some video on social already from Jeff Darlington, who apparently was obviously there witnessing this entire thing. And at one point, Scotty turned to him and was like, "Can you please help me? Can you help them understand what is happening, what they're doing right now?" Because I think that, it is one thing for Scotty Sheffler to likely misunderstand a direction that was given. If the text was sent at 5:39 and he arrives at 6 a.m., I'm not sure that he even looked at his phone or was aware of it before he arrived. So he's maybe still operating under a different assumption. So he gets there, and I'm sure he probably did something wrong or something that the officer wanted him to do differently. But instead of trying to clear up the confusion with the number one player of the world and arguably the biggest draw for the second major of the year, not only does he get pulled out of his car, not only does he get put in handcuffs, not only do the officers, when being explained by Jeff on site who they are arresting, that they say he's getting arrested, there's nothing you can do to change about that. Not only does he get taken to the police station and put in a jumpsuit and take a mugshot and be given felony charges. I mean, for all of those things to happen, it's a little bit incredible to me that you can allow all those things to happen in a way that, again, the world we live in, these things are going to be talked about. And so I feel heavily for the people involved who are trying to put together a really cool event, and one for the fans we're all excited about. And this is what we end up talking about on day 2 of the tournament, because I struggle to understand how we arrived at this place.
It was escalated, that's for sure. I'm not sure exactly, other than what we know. Did Scotty make it worse than what it could have been? I don't know, but as what I've seen from the golf course, might as well just turn the page to what we've seen from Scotty on the course. Can
I ask you about prep? Like, can I just tee you up on this about prep a little bit? Because I think this is interesting from a pro's perspective of, you're talking about all the things on the front end where you're arriving in a car, just going through your whole process. A lot of people don't have insight into this process. And we were talking this morning with, a guy who trains, multiple tour pros and athletes that go through these routines. And his insight was, he was probably arriving early to get a lift in, but, obviously that goes out the window with everything that happens. And so, the things that are probably on his checklist, his bare bones checklist, are maybe a mobility routine and then getting to the range. Talk a little bit about what that's like coming in on short time, how he preps for all that, and then, what you've seen thus far on the course today.
Yeah, I think he's running more off of probably some wild adrenaline, I'd imagine. That's not the good type of adrenaline, just the, I don't think he cares about a warm-up this morning. He had plenty of time to get his body loose, hitting balls, hitting bunker shots. It's not like he was pulling up to the tee box right before. I believe he had close to 30, 45 minutes to get ready, which is plenty of time, even though it was a damp, rainy morning, a little cooler. But I don't think that's part of what I think would screw up Scotty Scheffler at all, because watching him out there today, his body looks fine. He's hitting good shots. He's only had really one missed putt that he probably could have made on 11. He started the day hitting a wedge shot, almost making it again after yesterday, holing a shot on the first hole. So birdieing the first, then made a big putt at 12 after a bounce back on bogey at the 11th. I mean, he's 1 under par through 5 holes right now. Let's see what he finishes up today, but still just a remarkable story, especially with where Scotty Sheffler is coming into this week. Just had a child last week. Really could win the Grand Slam. This is a player that's won the Masters already this year. He's been on a tear, won the Players. This could have happened to any single one of the 154 players this week, and it just happened to happen to the best player in the world. So it's unlike anything we've ever seen in any sport. I can't think of any NBA, NFL player, you name the sport, where they're driving to the golf course and get arrested trying to get to their place to do their job. So I think it falls short a little bit from a logistics standpoint. Obviously, that could have been handled much, much better from a communication standpoint to the players, and exactly how they should get into the golf course. Because if moving back tee times was going to be a thing, that decision probably could have been made much, much earlier, instead of having the situation develop and realizing, okay, we need to push back tee times. That to me was the biggest failure. Was, when you have an incident right outside of the clubhouse, you probably need to let the players have enough time to be able to get to the golf course. And I think even the hazards that were still out there, I mean, we saw Cameron Young and Will Zalatoris, they decided to get out of their cars or their shuttle that they were in and walk to the golf course, which is I think a fairly big hazard in itself, as we'd already had somebody get hit and killed earlier in the day. So just from a logistical operation standpoint, right when this thing happened at 5 in the morning, the text had sent out, hey, go eastbound, come in from this way only. I think they probably could have given themselves some more time. Let's push back tee times an hour to give everybody plenty of time, knowing that there was a crime and investigation scene that needed all of its attention. And instead, what happened, players felt maybe like they were rushed to get to the golf course to get their routines started and maybe weren't quite aware of the situation. So I think that's where this has all fallen short, to where we led into a situation where, hey, this isn't unusual across the country over the last decade. Things like this happen, but not to the number one golfer in the world.
Yeah, I think it is. I mean, the note about Cam Young and Will Zalatoris is a good one. It's like we have a situation we're trying to get under control, and we're creating more situations. That's not ideal. I think there's a piece of this, and I think we have to be careful how we discuss this, but this is obviously a very somber event, what happened this morning, but there is the side of this where immediately people start, creating memes and making jokes on social media. And there's a reaction to this because there is there's an absurdity of this that generates discussion. And we were talking here this morning about, this is going to be great for Scotty and the Pip. I mean, a lot of talk around Scotty this morning. And I wonder if part of this, and definitely not trying to be insensitive to the situation, the events here, but here you have a guy who, as we talked about, amazing human being, a guy with a strong faith, a guy who just became a dad for the first time, who by all accounts is one of the nicest, best people on tour. And we've talked about this extensively, that is maybe a little too vanilla for a lot of people as the number one player in the world. And then this thing happens, it's like, and he's being charged with a felony. It's like, are we going to start calling Scotty the felon? I mean, it's just, I wonder if coming out of this whole sort of thing, if in a weird way, this sort of adds to the interest level around Scotty, because you got to imagine, I am very intrigued to see the TV ratings today and for the rest of the week, because this is every single network. We flip on SportsCenter, we flip on ESPN this morning. It's wall-to-wall coverage of what's happening with Scotty Sheffler. We're watching every single shot on the range. It is kind of unprecedented from a golf perspective. And I wonder what your thoughts are about just, all the other tragedy, that piece of it notwithstanding. In a way, is this sort of good for interest and talk about golf and maybe even Scotty's brand?
100%. I mean, Twitter this morning was an absolute
on point.
It was chaos, but it was. I think I woke up frustrated, maybe a little mad, disappointed how it was all handled, and it wore off pretty quickly because Twitter was absolutely electric. And I think once Scotty decided that he was playing, it was like, okay,
here we go.
Cue up the hype video, cue up the edits, cue the music up. I was all in on Scotty shooting 18 today at the golf course and birdieing the first hole. So yeah, it's crazy. And then even like beginning the week, start the week with Rory getting a divorce or filing for a divorce. It's just been a wild week to start it, and just crazy, absolutely crazy.
I mean, we were talking about this too, just reflecting on what a strange year it's been, where we've kind of, at the beginning of this podcast, we were having on antitrust lawyers to discuss the proposed merger between the PIF and the PGA Tour. And now we're reading police reports on this podcast. Like, would just love to talk about golf. But I mean, yeah, the whole spectacle, and there were, as soon as reports broke, Scotty's number moved to 8-1 to win the tournament. And then as soon as reports broke, he was being escorted back by Jimmy Kirchdorfer. They slide down to 5-1. And just the way this is impacting, markets around the tournament, it's just wild. And for all those reasons, we had to sit here and record an emergency pod. So, any other big reflections before we, in this whole situation, before we wrap and kind of get ready to watch the rest of the action on Friday from Valhalla?
I mean, I'm all in on the Scotty Slam now. I mean, this is I am
some fuel.
I would like to get a one-time take my one and done pick back from John Rahm and be able to use my bingo square on the get out of jail free card, if you will, on Scotty Sheffler.
Let's hope it's free when this is all said and done. It sounds like Steve Romines is a good attorney, so it just might be the case. But that's all from us on this little emergency react spot. Yeah, we'll see you tonight. We'll obviously come out to Club Magenta on the 10th tee, where Scotty put the peg in the ground for his first tee shot today, and hang out with Smylie all week long from 2 to 3 p.m. today in the Magenta Hour. A conversation with Colton O, so that one will be interesting, recapping this entire thing. So do that, and we appreciate you watching and listening. We'll be back recapping all the action from Friday at Valhalla tonight. Talk to you then.
I listen to this podcast. It's really cool. And
all of our Louisville fans and subscribers, but make sure you like and subscribe.
It's cool to see what you guys are doing. I know golf fans appreciate it, but we do too, so please keep it up.
For all the good people of YouTube, like and subscribe.
You guys have some good takes, so I'm happy to come on and shoot the